Do you remember the laughter, the catchphrases, the family that made America feel at home every week? Good Times lit up our screens in 1974, but behind the scenes, life was anything but good. Fame, betrayal, heartbreak, and tragedy haunted the cast long after the credits rolled. One vanished, one fought disease, another battled Hollywood itself. What really happened to the stars of Good Times? The truth will shock you. Esther Rolle as Florida Evans. She was the heartbeat of Good Times, the strong black mother who held the Evans family and the nation's hearts together. Esther Rolle's performance as Florida Evans turned her into a symbol of dignity and resilience. But while her character became a household name, her real life was marked by quiet battles no script ever captured. Off camera, Esther was uncompromising. She fought fiercely for the fair portrayal of black women on television, often clashing with producers. Her integrity earned her accolades, an Emmy for Summer of My German Soldier, powerful roles in Driving Miss Daisy and Rosewood, but also cost her friendships and opportunities. Behind the scenes, she returned each day to an empty apartment. No husband, no children. Just the weight of a career that gave her everything and left her with nothing. Diabetes slowly consumed her body, while loneliness chipped away at her spirit. Esther Rolle died in 1998 at 78. Her legacy was valued at $2 million, but no amount could repay the woman who gave voice to millions and never asked for anything in return. John Amos as James Evans. He was the rock of Good Times, the stern but loving father who anchored the Evans family with grit and unshakable pride. But for John Amos, playing James Evans wasn't just a role. It was a fight for truth, and it nearly cost him everything. Amos believed black families deserved more than punchlines and stereotypes. So when the scripts veered into caricature, he pushed back, hard. The result? He was written off the show. No farewell, no closure, just gone. It was the price he paid for standing up. Yet Amos didn't break. He rose higher, earning an Emmy nod for Roots and becoming a father figure again in Coming to America. But fame couldn't fix what fame had already fractured. 3 failed marriages left scars he rarely spoke about. In later years, a bitter feud with his own daughter surfaced publicly, dragging personal pain into the spotlight. As heart failure wore him down, so did the weight of a life lived in constant battle. John Amos passed away in 2024, age 84. He left behind $3 million and a legacy built not on comfort but conviction. Jeanette DuBois as Willona Woods. She was the firecracker next door. The stylish, witty, unfiltered Willona Woods who stole every scene. But Jeanette DuBois wasn't just comic relief. She brought soul, sass, and stunning depth to Good Times, reminding America that single black women could be strong, sexy, and self-sufficient. Off-screen, Jeanette was just as multi-talented. She sang, wrote, and composed the iconic theme song Movin' On Up for the Jeffersons, a cultural anthem of ambition and black pride. 2 Emmy Awards followed for her voice work on the PJs. Success, it seemed, was constant. But so was the pain. Her marriage ended early, leaving her a single mother of 4. Later, a deep relationship with actor Brock Peters brought her peace. But that too was shadowed by grief. The death of her son from cancer devastated her. Hollywood, once her stage, became a place she quietly stepped away from. In 2020, Jeanette DuBois passed away in her sleep. She was 77. Her net worth, around $2 million, never captured what she meant to the culture. Because Willona wasn't just a character, she was a movement in heels and hoop earrings. Bern Nadette Stanis as Thelma Evans. She was beauty with brains, the poised, graceful daughter who brought elegance to the Evans household. As Thelma Evans, Bern Nadette Stanis became a role model overnight. Young black girls saw her and believed they, too, could be smart, confident, and unstoppable. But behind that poised smile was a young woman crumbling under pressure. Fame hit fast and hard. Hollywood opened its doors, then slammed them shut. Typecast and overlooked, Bern faded from the spotlight, watching roles pass her by. Commercials and small appearances helped, but the dreams once within reach felt further away each year. Off camera, love was no kinder. 4 marriages came and went, each one leaving cracks in the image the world adored. People loved Thelma, she once said. Not me. But 2 daughters, Dior and Brittany, gave her a reason to keep going, even when the cameras stopped rolling. Now 72, Bern lives quietly in Atlanta, surrounded by family. She writes, speaks, inspires. The star may have dimmed, but the woman behind it, still shining, just in a softer, more enduring light. Which of these stories surprised you the most? Drop a comment. We're reading everyone. Ralph Carter as Michael Evans. He was the youngest Evans, but his voice carried the biggest ideals. As Michael, Ralph Carter gave Good Times its conscience. At just 13, he wasn't just acting, he was embodying hope, intelligence, and the fierce spirit of a generation demanding more. But childhood fame is a double-edged sword, and Carter learned that the hard way. When the cameras stopped, so did the offers. Hollywood didn't know what to do with a grown-up child star who'd once been a symbol. Carter turned back to the stage, where it all began. On Broadway, he'd won awards and a Tony nomination before he ever hit puberty. But even that world eventually moved on. He tried music, released an album, danced on Soul Train. But the spotlight faded, and Carter chose peace over pursuit. In 1994, he married River York. Together, they built the kind of family his character always dreamed of. 5 children, no drama, no headlines, just a quiet life grounded in love and stage work. Now 64, Ralph Carter still performs in small New York theaters, not for fame, but for the joy, for the art, for the boy who once believed change was possible and still does. Janet Jackson as Penny Gordon Woods. She was just 11 when she stole America's heart. As Penny, the sweet little girl with haunted eyes and hidden bruises, Janet Jackson delivered a performance so raw it made millions cry. But that pain wasn't just acting, it echoed deeper into a real life shaped by pressure, fame, and family shadows. Born into music royalty, Janet didn't want to be just another Jackson. After Good Times, she carved her own path. Control, Rhythm Nation, Janet. Each album a bold step toward freedom and self-definition. She sold over 100 million records, won Grammys, became a pop legend. But behind the music was heartbreak, a secret marriage to James DuBois, a turbulent relationship with Renee Elizondo, another collapse with Wissam Almana. Each left wounds she carried in silence. Then came the 2004 Super Bowl. 1 second on live TV turned into years of blacklisting, radio bans, public shame. Through it all, she stood alone. The death of her brother Michael nearly broke her, but from that grief, she returned stronger, unbreakable. A sold-out world tour, a new son, Isa. Now 59, Janet lives in Las Vegas, an icon still standing, not just remembered but reborn. Johnny Brown as Nathan Bookman. He was the butt of every joke, but also the heartbeat of the building. As Bookman, the clumsy, lovable superintendent, Johnny Brown brought levity when the show turned heavy. With his booming laugh and rubbery expressions, he made silly feel sincere. But off camera, Brown's story was one of near misses, quiet sacrifices, and unexpected grace. He almost starred in Sanford and Son, but a binding contract cost him the role. That loss haunted him. Good Times was his redemption, but even then, he never fully escaped the role's comic shadow. After the show, Brown returned to his roots in stand-up comedy, performing in clubs, variety shows, and the occasional guest role. Fame never roared again, but it lingered gently. Unlike many of his castmates, Brown found peace in family. His decades-long marriage to June Brown and their 2 children, including actress Sharon Brown, gave him a stability Hollywood rarely offers. In 2022, Johnny Brown died suddenly after a cardiology visit. He was 84. His funeral was quiet, his net worth modest, about $500,000. But for those who knew him, Bookman wasn't a joke. He was joy. Jimmie Walker as J.J. Evans. He lit up the screen with one word: dynamite. Jimmie Walker's J.J. Evans was wild, hilarious, unforgettable. At 27, he became a national sensation, his face on every magazine, his catchphrase echoing across living rooms. But that spotlight burned hotter than anyone expected, and it nearly consumed him. Critics slammed his performance for turning a complex family into a cartoon. Behind the scenes, tension grew. Walker clashed with co-stars, especially John Amos and Esther Rolle, who believed the show had lost its soul. The laughter that made him famous became the wall that separated him from everyone else. Hollywood didn't know what to do with him after Good Times. He found refuge in stand-up comedy, touring endlessly, chasing laughs in smaller and smaller venues. Fame faded, the crowds grew older, the applause quieter. Walker never married, never had children. In a rare interview, he said, "I wasn't built for family." Freedom was his choice, but solitude was the price. Today, Jimmie Walker is 78, still performing, still smiling. But sometimes, even dynamite can sound like a whisper from the past. Ben Powers as Keith Anderson. He arrived late in the series, but made an unforgettable mark. As Keith Anderson, the charming football player who stole Thelma's heart, Ben Powers brought hope and romance into the final season of Good Times. But in real life, his story was less about fairy tale love and more about slipping through Hollywood's cracks. At just 28, Powers had the looks, the voice, the presence. He should have soared. But after the show ended, the phone stopped ringing. A few roles followed, Laugh In, a Cheech and Chong movie, but none brought him back to the spotlight. The industry moved on, and Powers didn't know how to chase it. He later admitted, "Success came too fast. When it left, I didn't know who I was without it." Off-screen, he found refuge in family. He married Julia Harper, raised 4 kids, and left Los Angeles for Massachusetts, far from fame, close to peace. Then came the diagnosis: liver cancer, discovered too late. He faded from public life, choosing quiet over spectacle in his final years. Ben Powers died in 2015, age 64. His ashes were scattered along the Rhode Island coast. Net worth? Just $500,000. But his real legacy was love, the kind Keith never stopped giving. Moses Gunn as Carl Dixon. He wasn't on Good Times for long, but his presence lingered like a quiet melody. As Carl Dixon, the gentle widower who softened Florida Evans's broken heart, Moses Gunn gave the series something rare: adult love, tender and unspoken. But the man behind that warmth was a giant of the stage, carrying both brilliance and burden. Before television, Gunn commanded Broadway. In Shaft, Ragtime, and countless plays, he was a thunderous voice for black artistry, a Tony nominee, a founding force behind the Negro Ensemble Company. But while he roared on stage, backstage he quietly battled chronic asthma. Each performance began with an inhaler and ended with applause hiding exhaustion. Though his career was noble, it was rarely easy. Financial strain pushed him to sell possessions to keep his theater company afloat. Hollywood never gave him the roles his talent deserved, but he never stopped showing up. Moses found his sanctuary in marriage. For nearly 30 years, he shared life with his wife, Gwendolyn, raising 2 children in quiet dignity. In 1993, he died at 64 from asthma complications. His net worth? Around $1 million. His impact? Immeasurable. Chip Fields as Lynetta Gordon. She played one of Good Time's darkest characters. Lynetta Gordon, the abusive mother who left young Penny scarred and silent. Her brutal scene with Janet Jackson remains one of the most haunting in TV history. But Chip Fields didn't just portray pain. She understood it, and she used it to build something stronger behind the camera. After the spotlight faded, Fields didn't chase fame. She chased purpose. Hollywood offered few roles for middle-aged black women, so she pivoted, directing, mentoring, shaping the next generation of storytellers. Her work on Girlfriends and One-on-One helped redefine black television in the 2000s. At home, she had her greatest roles, mother and partner. She raised 2 daughters, actresses Kim and Alexis Fields, with steady love and quiet power. Her marriage to cinematographer Irv Hurd became a rare Hollywood anchor, solid, creative, enduring. Though she stepped back from the industry in later years, she never disappeared. Reunions, panels, quiet coaching sessions, her fingerprints are everywhere. Now 74, Chip Fields lives peacefully in Los Angeles. Her net worth? Around $2 million. But her real legacy isn't measured in money. It's in every woman she helped find her voice. Raymond Allen as Ned the Wino. He stumbled, slurred, and stole every scene. As Ned the Wino, Raymond Allen played a man society discarded, a drunken drifter with surprising wisdom and aching humanity. What could have been a forgettable comic role became unforgettable in Allen's hands, but the pain he channeled on screen wasn't entirely fiction. Fame came late, and left just as quickly. Allen appeared on Sanford and Son, Starsky and Hutch, and Good Times, always the side character, always the laugh. But behind the grin was a man quietly watching Hollywood move on without him. As roles dried up, he relied on residuals, fan conventions, and sheer grit. Chronic respiratory illness slowed him down but never dimmed his spirit. After his son's tragic death, Allen retreated further into solitude, but never bitterness. He raised 2 daughters alone after his divorce and kept signing autographs long after the cameras stopped rolling. "I may not act anymore," he once wrote, "but my audience still makes me feel alive." In 2020, Raymond Allen died at 91, net worth just $300,000. But to fans, he was priceless, a reminder that even the forgotten have something worth remembering. John Bailey as Cletus. He was the fun-loving nephew who brought light to Florida Evans's heavy world. As Cletus, John Bailey didn't get many lines, but he left an impression. Behind that wide grin was a young actor burning with passion and terrified of being forgotten. And tragically, that fear would come true. After Good Times, Bailey tried everything: children's TV, voice work, quirky film roles. He had range, heart, and hustle. But Hollywood offered little more than scraps. Desperate to survive, he made a choice that haunted him for the rest of his life, entering the adult film industry under a different name. He later called it a mistake made in fear. But survival doesn't always wait for dignity. By 40, he was battling bladder cancer and working on small independent documentaries no one watched. He kept his illness private, not out of pride, but to avoid pity. "Remember my art," he once said, "not my endings." John Bailey died in 1994, just 47 years old, buried in a public cemetery with few in attendance. His net worth? Only $200,000. But his story, raw, real, and too often ignored, deserves far more than silence. Albert Reed Jr. as Alderman Fred C. Davis. He wasn't the hero. He wasn't the villain. He was the slick politician you loved to hate, Fred C. Davis, the neighborhood alderman who always had a smile and an angle. Albert Reed Jr. brought him to life with quiet authority and knowing charm. But while his character played politics, Reed lived a double life of a different kind. By night, he acted on screen. By day, he was an actual airport security officer in Los Angeles. Few knew that the man lecturing James Evans on city council policy was also checking luggage at LAX. It wasn't a hobby, it was survival. Reed believed black professionals could and should hold positions of power, both on screen and in real life. But the cost was high. Exhaustion, stress, and chronic fatigue followed him for years. Still, he never quit either job. He lived modestly. No scandals, no spotlight. Just quiet discipline and deep purpose. On May 31st, 1986, Albert Reed Jr. passed away at 64. Cause of death, undisclosed. His funeral barely made the papers. Net worth, around $400,000. But for those who noticed, he stood for something Hollywood often forgets: dignity without drama. These aren't just Hollywood tales. They're real lives. Like, share, and subscribe to keep their stories alive.